Hello everybody, welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Oana.
So today we are going to talk about the pros and cons of flipping a house.
Yes.
So flipping houses is very, very popular. It's very profitable. There's TV shows, and on TV they make it look easy.
They do.
And there's certainly some things you can learn and gain from flipping a house, and there's some downsides. So we are going to go over some very general things. We actually have 9 pros and 6 cons. So we're going to go over those one at a time.
Yes.
All right. So the first reason pro to flip a house is
potential to make a lot of money. Now they certainly make it look easy on TV, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's not quite as easy as it looks. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, but the reason that it's done is for money, because you're taking a house, probably paying cash for it, and then getting it ready for somebody else to buy it with a loan, and there's value in that, and then that value goes to the investor who took the risk in buying the property. So you can make money doing this, you can lose money, but you can make money. So that's the first pro, is that you can make money.
Yes.
All right. Okay, the second pro of flipping a house is
getting a hands-on education on real estate. So you're going to learn all about buying, what goes into putting a property together, what goes into selling it, the whole process, which is a lot more than most people have experience with, because most people only do one side of the transaction at a time.
Yeah, and it's because as real estate brokers, we've done thousands of real estate transactions ourselves from an agent perspective, but we always seem to learn something. So when you're flipping houses, you're going to learn and you're going to get better at it. And when you get better, you tend to make more money too.
Right.
So it also goes with the first one.
Yes, we like making more money.
Making money is always good. Okay, the third pro of flipping a house is?
It's the process of buying and selling. They are completely different processes, and you have different priorities. So when you're buying a property, you're looking for a certain type of property, you're looking for a certain budget, you're looking for certain characteristics, maybe a certain neighborhood, maybe particularly with flipping, you're looking maybe with the end in mind, hopefully, as to who your ideal buyer is going to be. And then of course the end portion of it, with the selling of the property, what does that look like for you? How will you go about selling the property? How will you market it? How will you price it? What does the market look like for you to sell this property? What's your ideal buyer? So it's a whole different perspective on buying and selling.
One of the interesting things about this, the buying and selling process with a flip, is you have 3 distinct phases. The buying phase, and in the buying phase, there's money to be made there, because the better deal you get when you buy the house from whoever you're buying it from is money in your pocket. Then you have the middle phase, which is the flip, which is in theory where you do repairs. Now, not all flips you fix up the house, and some you just put it back on the market and sell it. But if you're economical with your repairs in your flipping process, there's money in that.
Yes.
And then the last part's the selling part. And if you're economical and smart about how you price it, how the method you go to sell it to get as much money in a reasonable amount of time, that all 3 of those, that there's money in it, which goes back to the first one too.
Right. And the thing to keep in mind, if you're going to be flipping the property, when you're buying the property, make sure that you get a binder on that title insurance policy, so that when you go to sell it, if you're going to sell it within a short amount of time, you'll be able to just pay the title insurance on the difference between the 2 prices, not on the whole price.
And that's something you talk about with the title insurance company.
Absolutely.
And that's when you close on the first house, when you're...
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, the 4th pro of flipping a house is?
Construction. This is something that most of us don't have a whole lot of experience with, but you get a very fast crash course in construction when you're flipping houses and you're doing rehab. So that means you're going to be doing some simple things like paint and flooring, and flooring doesn't always turn out to be simple, but we hope that it is. But then you're also doing maybe other things. Maybe you're redoing bathrooms or kitchens, putting in some new appliances, maybe some landscaping. So all that construction is very important for you to learn about pricing, different vendors, and trying to make sure that you're doing it as economically as possible so that it makes sense for you to then be able to price the property competitively when you go to sell it.
And what's important is that a lot of home flippers they're a team, 2 people maybe, and one person's expertise is finding the deals and making the transactions happen, and then the other person's the one that comes in with the money and does all the repairs. And a lot of times these are contractors, they can get stuff done super cheap. So don't be afraid if you don't have that person, you need to find them. But a lot of flippers don't go out and pay retail costs for their flip, because then that takes a lot of money out of the deal.
Right.
The 5th pro to flipping a house is
learning about the real estate market. So the real estate market is something that everybody who owns property thinks that they know about. But somehow when you are actually in it and you own property, particularly when you're trying to buy it or sell it, you learn a lot more about it. I don't care if you've sold 3,000 houses like we have, you'll still learn something about the real estate market on every transaction.
And you learn about the specific areas too. Some people like to flip in one area because they know that area and they know what they can get. But sometimes you just find a deal and it's a different area, so you say, okay, let's go get it. And then you find, you get to learn about that segment of the market in that area.
Absolutely.
Okay, the 6th pro of flipping a house is
marketing. So how are you going to market this house? Every house is somewhat unique because, of course, it's in its own particular location, because this is real estate, so it's location, location, location. And then, who's your ideal buyer? So it's important that you market to your ideal buyer.
Yeah, we have a lot of people that we've helped flip houses. What they do is they rely on the real estate agent. A lot of times it's their partner in the transaction to handle that, to just take care of the whole selling process in the marketing part. But if you're flipping through like a for sale by owner or something like that, then you're just doing it on your own.
Right.
Yeah. And
that can be a little more challenging. And it can take you a little bit longer to sell the property. So you may want to consider the value of the time as far as holding the property.
Okay, the 7th pro of flipping a house is learning about
buyer insights. So this is very valuable both on this property and on future properties, because the more properties you flip, the more you understand the mindset of buyers and what they're looking for. So, are buyers looking right now for the house that has the pearl gray interior paint and the faux wood floors, because no one's putting in actual wood floors, they're putting in the laminates. It used to be that buyers were looking for the beige homes with the beige carpet. So it depends on what's trending. So by learning what buyers are looking for, you're going to be sure that when you're doing the work on the property, you're doing the work that buyers want. So you're making that house the most appealing it can be as far as what's trending in the buyer market today.
And and it's going to be specific to the area too, because if you're doing a condo and a high rise, those people expect everything to be brand new in there. Granite in the kitchen, even though it's a very small space. But if you're doing a beachfront property, they're going to be looking for, and they're not going to be living there full time, then they're looking for something different too. And knowing that is important, because you can overflip a house.
Right.
If you don't understand what the buyer's looking for. Okay, the 8th pro of flipping a house is what?
Well, it's networking. It's increasing your circle of people that are professionals in that market, in that industry, that will help you both on this property and on future transactions. That means getting to know realtors, contractors, appraisers, home inspectors, all these people that you'll have contact with that will both be able to help you now and in the future, and possibly even give you leads on future properties to purchase.
And that's a true thing, because you probably say, well, wait, aren't they my competition? Like, we're competing for the same house? We usually know. Most flippers have identified a house, and there's not other flippers usually looking at it. It's usually they find it and they make the deal. But what can happen is, if other people know that you're involved in flipping, they'll come to you and say, hey, look, I found this great house, but I only have this much cash. do you want to go and partner with me on the house? We'll just do it together, split the money. And they're effectively helping you identify a house you wouldn't have found on your own.
Absolutely. Another thing to consider is investor clubs or investor meetups, that sort of thing. Those are great places for you to network because, again, there are investors who maybe come across deals, but they just don't have the cash or the time to take on a property. But maybe you have the cash and the time to do it. You can partner up, or you can simply help each other out in some other way.
Okay, the 9th pro flipping a house is?
The pride of having done it. Okay, I mean, look, let's face it, not very many people get to flip houses. So you take an ugly duckling maybe and you turn it into a beautiful home for somebody. So you've got the satisfaction that you have made a house into a home. You have the satisfaction that you successfully completed a transaction end to end. You have the satisfaction and the happy pocketbook that maybe you made some money. So there's a lot of pride involved with flipping homes.
I would even add maybe bragging rights, because
Yes.
you're driving down the road. It's just like the old joke, when you're driving down the road, the real estate agent, they always go, oh, I sold that house, I sold that house. But you could be like, hey, you see this house? I flipped that house. It was a mess and I flipped it. And they'll be like, oh, did you make a lot of money? Yeah. So, but there's a lot of pride in that. It's a very important role that the flipper has, because the flipper is improving it. Usually they're improving a neighborhood. So when somebody comes in and buys a house to flip it in your neighborhood, you should be like, yes, that's going to help home prices, because they're going to repair the house, make it nice. It won't be a dump anymore. And,
Absolutely. So you're turning a house into a home. That's something to be very proud of.
Yep. All right, so the 6 cons of flipping a house, and Oana, what's the first one?
The first one is the one that we're all afraid of, losing money.
Yep.
None of us want to lose money. And unfortunately, it does happen. You run into cost overruns, and it does happen that people do lose money on flipping homes.
Yeah, so you either buy it more, you pay too much for it because you thought it was worth more, or you have a hard time selling it, or in the flip process, there just ends up being a ton of costs that you didn't realize. A story that I was told by somebody who flipped 300 houses and only lost money 4 times was they bought a house without seeing the inside at the trustee sale, and it was completely mold. And they had to spend thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, and they ended up not making any money on the house. Mm-hmm. So you could lose your money, just, it's possible. Mm-hmm. Okay, the second con of flipping a house is?
Unanticipated problems. So those are problems, usually delays as far as materials or labor, or maybe unanticipated expenses like permits or repairs costing more than what you thought they would cost, or repairs that you weren't even thinking you needed to do, but now you need to do.
Yeah, and flippers pride themselves in being able to do it pretty quickly, because the quicker you get your money back, you can go buy that next property. So if your money's sitting in a property and you're waiting for some inspection from the city because you had to get a permit for something, or you're waiting for a specific type of thing that's out of stock and you have to have it because it matches whatever else is in the house, that can delay the process, it can be frustrating, and cost you money at the same time.
Right.
The third con of selling a house is?
Losing your profit to taxes. A good way to think about it is you made money on the flip, but then come April 15th, you owe Uncle Sam a bunch of money, and you're seeing your profit just go to Uncle Sam. A good way to avoid that is to do a 1031 exchange. And we'll do another video on that, but the short story is that if you roll your profits from one house to the next without ever actually touching the money through a 1031 exchange, then you are deferring taxes to later on.
Yep. And the other way to do it is through a self-directed IRA. But both of those are really complex, and they deserve their own separate video.
Yes.
1031 exchange and self-directed IRA, doing the flip within that.
Yes.
The fourth con of flipping a house would be?
holding and carrying costs. So this is in particular when you have a mortgage. So if you have a mortgage on the property and it takes you 4 months to make the repairs, another 4 months to sell it and close on it, that's 8 months that you're making mortgage payments on it. So that can really eat into your profits.
Yeah, and especially a lot of, you've probably seen on other videos, they recommend, when they talk about how to do it, like the techniques of doing it, hard money loans. And those are really, have a high interest rate. You could pay 8%, you could pay 18% in a hard money loan. And if it takes you 4 months to flip a house and you're paying 18% interest on what you borrowed, it's gonna really eat into your profit. So you want to avoid holding carrying costs as much as possible.
Yes.
The fifth con of flipping a house
is difficulty selling the house.
Okay.
So this is where your market knowledge really makes all the difference, because a house is difficult to sell when it's not priced properly or in a declining market. So you need to know what's going on in that marketplace so that you don't run into difficulties in selling the house.
Yeah, it's really, remember, you can sell the house at any price, right? You could just lower the price and sell it, but you want to make sure that you make some money out of it. So if the house is hard to sell for whatever reason, some unforeseen thing, that's a negative thing. It's usually strictly just eats into your profit.
Right. So make sure that you know your market, make sure you know what buyers are looking for in that market so you don't have difficulty selling the property.
The sixth and final con of flipping a house is
the biggest thing, which is stress, something
Yep.
none of us like. It is stressful, you know, between having to coordinate all the repairs, between having to pay for the mortgage and all this money going out and no money coming in. That is stressful.
And sometimes it's just meeting with the person to negotiate the flip with them and talk about why they need to sell. And sometimes you get the sad story from them and you're just trying to help them out and make some money for yourself. And the whole thing can be stressful. If you're using somebody else's money, if they're your equity partner and they keep calling you going, hey, what's going on with that house we bought 3 months ago, and they're calling you every day saying, hey, I need to get some money out of this thing. What's going on? Why isn't it selling?
Right.
That can be very stressful. And no amount of profit will compensate you for just being stressed out in life.
Right.
Yeah.
So keep in mind that most of us like our hair on our head. We do not want to pull it out. We do not want it to fall out. So plan ahead so that you can avoid as much stress as possible when you're flipping a house.
So in summary, flipping a house can be very profitable.
Yes.
It can be very fun. It could also be very stressful.
Yes.
So when you do it, make sure you know what you're doing. If it's your first time, which probably a lot of you watching this video are just, you're getting in this mode of, hey, this is something I think I want to do. Go find somebody who's done it before. Find a mentor. Watching videos is great, but go find somebody and actually say, hey, I just want to go through the process with you and this is why I want to do it, and learn the process, because when you learn, you earn.
Exactly. And again, join investor clubs. These people are very generous with their time, with their knowledge, and it's not a zero-sum game for them. They understand that if they help you, you will help them too, and it's a good community to belong to.
Yep. So that is all for this video. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe if you made it all the way to the end, and we'll see you on another video.